I know. The title promises a lot. Sex, cannibal, psycho, freak, killer. And amongst our little community, those obsessed with video nasties and rare horror films, the title means a lot too. They say it's the closest art house ever got to snuff, or the closest snuff ever got to art house. They say it's so disturbing that you can plot the passage of the tapes through various countries solely by studying in which regions suicides rise notably above average. I've heard insane things about it. It's so disturbing it permanently rewires key adrenaline-responsive neurons in your brain that it's the only real snuff film ever commercially funded, that in certain ex-Soviet countries even mentioning the title of the film will ensure that you and your family swiftly disappear. In short, the film's legendary, the scariest, most disturbing, most beautiful, most confusing horror movie ever to exist. With a title like that, a friend of mine told me was named so, as the director had no title when it came to distribution, and standing on set after a long day of work, simply named the first 5 things he saw. And so that's where I found myself, in front of my television, wide-eyed, waiting, anxious, excited, my mouth dry. This was it. I'd finally tracked it down after 15 years of secondhand shops, internet searches, dubious late-night phone calls. I had it. I slid the VHS tape into the old machine and listened to it whir, closed my eyes, took a breath, prepared. A man dressed in an old-fashioned suit, grubby. He has a thin, drooping mustache, a smattering of stubble, a tattered bowler hat on his head. He sits on a stool, knees brought together. Looking just off to the right of the camera, he brings an apple to his mouth and chews. I was excited now. Sure, okay, the beginning was a little abstract, but maybe something horrible was going to happen. A razor blade in the apple? Perhaps he'll be shot or decapitated, or… He takes another bite. His neck is a little dirty. Grime sneaks up from under his starched collar. Chews. His eyes seem to shake slightly, an expression I can't place, halfway between fear and boredom and something else. This had gone on now for 5 minutes. It was beginning to drag. I considered fast-forwarding, decided against it. Half the apple's gone now. He's still eating it, taking large and methodical bites, chewing with great care. The room around him is a little dilapidated, paint peels from the wall. Occasionally, the tape skips slightly, loses a second or two, and then catches up with itself, briefly giving his movements this strange, jerking desperation. Before long, he's finished. The tape cuts to black. I pause. Have I had this all wrong? I'd run the verification checks. This was the real deal. Perhaps it had been taped over. Perhaps this was some art school dropout's attempt at a prank. But part of me didn't believe that. There was something in that tape, and I could not put my finger on exactly what, that had snuck up my spine and made a nest in my skull. Something disturbing. The same response that makes you freeze, only to realize someone's been watching you or you're about to step on a snake. Some ancient and physical response to danger, to the unknown, so old and primal that it can't be translated to thought. A warning. Something is wrong. Int? Bedroom? Night? My phone buzzes from the pocket of my jeans. I groan, try and ignore it. No luck. It keeps buzzing. I stagger up, taking my phone out, and in my half-sleep answering it. Hello? No voice on the other side. Instead, it's just the most horrible chewing sound. It's precisely the way my husband chews. He takes a bite, and then inhales and smacks his laps as he chews it a few times, as if he's scared of it falling out of his open mouth. Why he doesn't close his mouth is beyond me. And that's the sound on the other end of the line, from an unknown number. This graphic, wet chewing sound. "Who is this?" No response. I shout to my husband, "Is that you on the phone? Chewing?" He murmurs something about me losing my mind, about needing some sleep. He has a point. I hang up. X'd. Bus stop. Day. I'm waiting for a bus. Which is, to no one's surprise, late. The bus arrives with a hiss of suspension, and I climb on. There, on a seat near the front, I find a magazine. A magazine that has no name, no title, just an image of an apple on the front. I sit next to it for some time before opening it. I can't help but imagine it as another passenger, giving it space, letting it breathe. A few stops later, I decide I'm being stupid, and I pick it up. It is page after page of gibberish. No headlines, no images, just a constant stream of prose that makes my head hurt. Passages like, "And the skin of the fruit was thin. The first fruit, the forbidden fruit that lurks in the shadows of the garden, and she took it, plucked the stem and tore its thin skin and pressed her tongue against the sweet flesh, for she knew, and once she knew, she would know forevermore. And this would her fate, to know and to be known in the flesh and the blood, and rendered dumb and mute with guilt and sin, and she would know but there's something else. Some strange extra dimension to the words, and gradually I realize what it is. A voice. Someone's whispering the exact words I'm reading just behind me. I feel my body tense. My mouth freezes in a small O. I know that whoever it is just behind me. As calmly as possible, I stand up at the next stop and walk off the bus, slowly, carefully, like a robot. It's only when I make it off the bus that I turn to look at the window. Int. Office. Day. My head's heavy. The muscles of my neck weak. I can't stop thinking about the film. About the man on the stool eating the apple. What was it in his face? What was that facial expression? Why did it make me feel so vulnerable and so intrigued, like watching some undress in public, or Eve? I sit back. "Sorry, Martin. Sorry." He raises an eyebrow. "Late night?" Something like that. When it's time for lunch, I stand by the fruit bowl for the whole hour, running my hands over the smooth skins of the apples, biting my lip. I wonder if NT bus. Day. Every seat has a magazine now. The paper thin and cheap. The red apple printed on the front, the color of raw meat. There is no one else on the bus. I can only assume that these are meant for me. Int. Living room. Day. I watch it again. Several more times, if I'm honest. I sit, slack-jawed, watching those strange jerking movements as the tape skips, the long and deliberate chews on the apple, the strange expression in the man's eyes as he looks to the left of the camera. To the left? Scratch my chin. I thought it had been the right? Easy mistake to make. I watch it once more before bed with my middle finger in my mouth, on my tongue, tasting the salt of a day's sweat, imagining the wet pop of biting down on the knuckle. In bedroom. Night. The door between the bedroom and the kitchen is open. I can hear my husband chew, that horrid smacking sound. The wet slurps, the splutter as he gasps for breath. I think, and only briefly, I assure you, of him choking, his lips swollen and blue, his eyes rigor mortis staring at the ceiling, his fingernails tearing at his throat. I think about what it would be like to kiss him like this, dead, whether I would taste the food in his mouth or nothing but cold skin. Int. Apartment. Night. I can't sleep. I go on a small walk of the halls of our apartment, trying to tire myself out. The hallway's lights are all set to the dimmest setting, and in my state I see things that aren't there. The pictures on the walls have been replaced with apples, bowler hats rest on coat stands, the elevator shaft throbs behind the walls like a giant artery. I imagine the walls of the apartment complex gone. Of the edges of each individual apartment, only delineated by white lines on the floor, and, like one of those videos you see of some sweatshop, hundreds and hundreds of men stretching out in all directions around me, all perched on identical stools, all eating identical apples. I steady myself against the wall. I have been crying. I lick the salt from the corners of my mouth and go back to bed. Int. Living room. Day. My friend Mary calls. She says she has something to show me, can barely hold back her excitement. She puts her phone down on the floor so that the camera facing her is angled up slightly and I can see her whole body. Are you ready? I had forgotten how grating her accent is. How chirpy, how needy, how me it sounds. Sure, I'm ready. I'm thinking of the stool, of the possibility that the man eating the apple is looking through the screen and at me. She takes off her shirt, stands in just shorts. I can see her breasts, the skin of her stomach, and all of it is covered in what I think at first are blue stripes, but upon closer inspection are actually lines and lines and lines of writing tattooed in cursive on her skin. She shows me a few different angles, brings the camera closer to read. The words, I must add, do not move or shift to adopt the contours of her body. Instead, it is like they are stamped on her, impassive, resolutely themselves. From what I can see, they say, "And she who took the fruit broke the first and only law, the sacrament, and it is with her. This all lies the sin and the lust and the shame, it lies at her feet, the first fruit, the only fruit, the forbidden fruit." She twists, turns, speaks up. What do you think? I ask her where she got it done, what the inspiration for it was. She shrugs. I don't know. I saw it in the window of a parlor near me. I just liked it. She shows me her back, the delicate arc of her spine. More words. Have you been eating apples? I ask. She frowns. You haven't said a single nice thing, Eve. My whole body's fucking covered, and you can't even say one nice thing. She hangs up. I watch the film again, imagining if the man on the stool has any tattoos, if his skin is half blue and covered in words he finds pleasing. Int. Apartment complex. Night. My husband will not stop fucking chewing. I wander up and down the halls at night. It's so quiet here, so soft. The light cast makes my skin feel softer. Sometimes I knock on someone's door, making mewing noises like a lost kitten, like a cat in heat, wet gurgles. I pretend to be a cat too, walking the halls on all fours. Sometimes I think I can see him, the apple man, at the end of the corridor, peering round or peeking out from an apartment to examine the source of the noise in the corridor. I don't pay him much mind at all. Sometimes I press my ears to the doors and hear the strangest things. Shrieks and people begging, please don't, no, stop please, and wet sounds like broken gutters, rhythmic thuds and smashing glass, whimpers and strange little hoarse voices saying, let me out, let me out, let me out. Ext field. Day. I am walking through a field singing a song from my childhood. I take my time, swim in a small stream. The water is cold, makes my skin pucker and then smooth, and I sit in the stream until the chill makes my teeth rattle. I towel off, get dressed again, take an apple from a nearby tree, and walk back into town. A homeless woman is begging by the bus stop, unable to speak, shaking a cup full of coins. I hand her the apple, smile. I do not know why, Upon seeing my face, she breaks out in tears. I can hear her howl and scream as I board the bus through the thin glass of the window. Int, bedroom, night. I am watching a video on my phone in bed. I can feel the weight of the sheets against my nipples, loose and soft between my legs. The night air is cool, tastes of rain. They have found a body, they say, in an orchard nearby. They have found a man's body, dismembered, his body parts laying one by one at the roots of the trees, tied in pretty red ribbons. His hand, his cock, his tongue, his teeth are scattered in the soil between the trees like white seeds. The footage is from sometime in the day, and as the news reporter speaks, I swear to God I can see a dark figure moving in the orchard, at first slouched and then on all fours, someone crawling and shaking between the trees. I reach my hand out. My husband is not in bed. The news reporter keeps talking. The most gruesome murder we've ever seen in this state, premeditated, ritualistic, sexual and depraved, and animal cunning. And as she speaks these words, these veiled compliments into the blank camera lens, I begin to touch myself under the sheets, close my eyes, wet my lips. As I'm about to come, the news report still playing, to the sound of helicopter blades and sirens, a noise breaks my concentration. That chewing, smacking lips and a wet tongue, and sloppy inhales and fuck. I march into the kitchen, scream, throw a glass at the table where I assume my husband is sitting. It smashes against the wall, and I flick on the lights. The room is empty, silent now, except for the slow drip of water from the tap. And as I stand there panting, the television turns on. The film plays. The same man, the same stool, the same apple. But this time he's not looking to the left or the right. He's looking right at me, through the lens of the camera and out the screen, and as we make eye contact, me, naked, he takes his free hand and tips the brim of his hat in an old-fashioned greeting. And there, on the wall behind him, the wall which has been bare until this point, is a shadow. Int, office. They are waiting for me in the foyer. A few nicely dressed policemen, handsome, smelling of cheap cologne and plastic. They take me aside. They need to ask me a few questions. They ask me when I had last seen my husband. The fruit, the forbidden fruit, and the last shall be the first. And what we have learned has cost us everything, and yet cost us more. They ask me if it is true I have been missing work, if I wish to elaborate any further on that. And was his cross, the cross he died on, made from the wood of that first tree, was that tree that bore the fruit felled and from the lumber a cross built? They ask me if I know anything about the reports coming from my apartment complex. And was his tongue, his mouth that dried and spoke forgiveness, the same mouth that tasted the flesh of the fruit? Or was it hers, she who was cursed to know the world before and the world after, and the Eve? I shake my head. I purse my lips, lay my palms flat against my thighs. I imagine each of them trussed up nicely. Those strong hands holding the pen nailed to the cross, this mouth that inquires endlessly taken apart and preserved tongues and lips and teeth, segments of their spine, strung up from a high branch. I have done nothing but watch the video since they talked to me, since they levied their suspicions at me, and asked those invasive questions, those questions that made me feel naked and exposed. And every time I replay the movie, the man on the stool looks more and more terrified. Sometimes when I watch it, he weeps, and I can see the hand holding the apple shaking. Every time the shadow on the wall grows closer, gets larger and darker, and sometimes as I reach to turn it off or to rewind, the man on the stool tries to whisper to beg me not to. I have a collection now of pretty things, all wrapped in ribbons, some still warm and some cold, but also beautiful, and they are strewn around my apartment almost at random, some on the kitchen table, some on my pillow, some in the sink or on chairs. I have bought so many televisions and screens, and after some trial and error, I have managed to get it so that the film is playing from everyone in sync. Sometimes I pick a pretty thing and I will hold it in my hand or rest it in my lap as I watch the film again, and I will speak to it and drool like a child, and sometimes if I cannot sleep, I will bang my head against the door until I pass out. I have given up on the idea of wearing clothes much, but sometimes I will take the eyes and make them face the wall if I want to touch myself. If I want to come alone in my apartment to the sound of the news or the sirens outside. I can hear them in the corridor trying to find me, but having no luck, so many of these apartments are empty, have always been empty, filled with crack whores and junkies. I swear to God that the shadow in the film looks just like me. I swear it. I think of the screen as a kind of skin, and it tastes like glass, but I taste it nonetheless and spit on it and bleed on it. I think I am growing fat. They will be here soon, and so I have left a copy of the film for them bound in a red ribbon. Someone is fucking chewing in here somewhere. I swear to God, that wet sound, that horrible slurping sound, it revolts me. Someone make them stop, please. What was Eve to do? The first fruit. The most forbidden fruit was picked by her, and only her, and she was the first one to taste it. And what he tasted was only a parody, was only an impression of what she knew to be the truth. And God said from on high, "You must leave. You have committed sin. You have broken the first and only law." He told her she had doomed us all, and for this his only son would die, and she had tongued the wet flesh of the fruit. And then she knew she was naked, and that God and Adam watched her with lust and hate in equal measure. And when they said she should feel ashamed and forget what she now knew and leave and walk until her feet bled and her skin puckered and her tongue grew dry and fat in her mouth, what was Eve to do? They are close now, I know. I can hear their voices. The helicopter blades above, the sirens below. They do not understand, will not understand. And when they ask me the questions again, when they bind my hands behind my back and put me in the back of their cars or vans, and when they take me to court and all these men who do not understand ask me questions that are not relevant or important or interesting, questions that a child could answer. When they ask me these, I will have only one reply for them. What was I to do? If you've just gone through Eve's journey with the eerie VHS tape, stop for a moment. What did you feel? The chills, the haunting, the feeling of being watched? Do you believe that the horrifying images are just a figment of your imagination? Or do they still linger somewhere in the darkness? Share your thoughts, and don't forget, when you hear the sound of chewing in the middle of the night, remember the eyes of the man on the screen.